So today I want to talk about a very, very important recovery tactic for recovering from CFS and fibromyalgia. What happens with people who have these kinds of symptoms is that we become preoccupied with symptoms and they become a danger signal. They become a signal to us to slow down, to stop, or you're going to hurt yourself, or you're going to get worse, etc., etc. So that is our interpretation of what's happening, the sensations in our body. It's only natural to interpret them in this way because pain, fatigue, etc., something's wrong. There's a pathology. So we become very, very fearful of all these symptoms. And the first step, of course, is to understand the cause of the symptoms. So you gotta watch my other videos for that. But in a nutshell, it's unconscious learned responses to threatening emotions. But then it becomes a kind of an ingrained habit after a while, and we have to undo that habit. We have to unlearn the habit. And the way we do it is by constant repetition. Repetition, repetition, repetition. It's the only way. If it's a particularly ingrained habit, it's going to be the only way to really unlearn it. So, the tactic is this. You need to, anytime that you find yourself focusing on symptoms, focusing on pain, on fatigue, or thinking ahead, am I going to be able to sleep tonight, or can I handle this, can I handle that, am I going to be able to recover? Any kind of preoccupation whatsoever to do with the illness, you've got to remind yourself, you've got to redirect your attention, you've got to remind yourself that you're safe. So this is something I do frequently. Sometimes I go on a loop where when I'm particularly anxious about something to do with symptoms or with the condition, I remind myself sometimes 24, not 24/7, but repeatedly, could be for 15 minutes or a half hour. It just keeps going and going in my head. You are safe. You are absolutely safe. This activity is safe. All activity is safe. You are basically healthy. There's no pathology. There's no tissue damage. Activity is not dangerous. Whatever words work best for you, use those words. The particular words are not so important. The important idea is that you continuously remind yourself that you're basically okay. The symptoms, there's a reason for them that you understand, and that you're going to be okay, and that it is the very preoccupation with symptoms that perpetuates them. And another tactic is you can start thinking immediately about whatever underlying emotions or personality traits like perfectionism that are driving the symptoms. That's another way to do it, but the one I want to focus on today is just to remind yourself that you're safe. Okay? Because you'll find yourself tensing up throughout the day. Maybe you just did some activity and you're not sure if it's too much or it just feels like you've reached a certain limit and you start getting concerned. Or it could just be a random anxiety that pops up. Oh my God, how am I going to deal with XYZ when I have this condition? Or it could be anything that is preoccupation with the condition. So just remind yourself, I'm safe, I'm okay, there's nothing to fear, etc. And you can say it in your head while having a conversation with other people, while you're engaged at work, in work, or while you're watching TV, or whatever it is that you're doing. You can basically have this running in the background, reminders to yourself whenever you need them, which is going to be often, at least in the beginning, that you're okay, you're safe. Another thing is, you may have noticed in yourself, I definitely noticed in myself, a tendency to rush. Whenever I'm feeling like, there's a lot of symptoms or whatever, I tend to rush, just get this task done quickly, quickly, quickly. and just get to safety, so to speak. Get to safety. Just sit down somewhere or lay down or whatever. Rush, 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 rush. Now, yeah, you may need to sit down or lay down, but you want to get out of that rushed state. So another phrase that I use with myself is, there's nowhere to rush. And along with that, you will notice that your muscles tense up. You'll notice that your body can be very, very tense. So your shoulders, your eyebrows, your jaw. Consciously release that tension. Anytime you notice that you're tense, consciously release the tension to the extent that you can in that moment. And you know what'll happen? It'll tense right back up again. And you release it again. And it'll tense up again. And you release. And you do this often. You do this every day. This is, for me at least, this is how it's going. I have to do this every day, and I have to be vigilant. Anytime I notice it, I do it. It tenses right back up. I release again. It tenses. I relax, etc. So all these things are always happening in the background in my mind. I'm releasing physical tension, relaxing my muscles. I'm reminding myself that I'm safe, and I'm reminding myself not to rush. This is how we unlearn this unconscious learned response that the brain has learned to generate symptoms. And the more that we do it, the more that we practice it, the easier it'll get, and the less these learned responses will have, the less strong they'll get, and eventually they'll weaken and they'll dissipate. But for now, this is what we got to do constantly. Constantly. And it's working. Don't worry about, is it working, is it not working? It's working. It just takes a lot of repetition. That's just how learning works, especially this kind of learning. So try that out, implement that in your own recovery, and I think it's going to help you big time. Thanks for listening.